questions are strength, they're not weakness. I promise you, in that person's mind, they thought going and asking questions was going to be weakness, and it was going to be treated like weakness.
If we have a question, that means we don't know, and that means we're dumb, or that means we aren't, we're weak in some way.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts, quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners, and I'm joined, as always, by my partner in podcasting, Emily Grace Deal. Emily Grace Deal, what are we talking about today?
Well, we often struggle to have hard conversations.
Yes.
As leaders, how can we get our team to have hard but effective conversations?
Yeah. I think one of the things to start with understanding this idea is, why do we struggle to have hard conversations? And obviously there's the big things, like we want to be liked, and we don't want to have to deliver hard news and that kind of thing. But I think one of the most interesting ones is it's actually easier to just quietly put our head down and run harder than it is to have the conversation. It is easier to work harder than to just stop and talk about what we're wrestling with.
Right.
And that trap gets us all the time. I encountered this the other day with an organization where these leaders came down and they dropped this massive project on kind of a mid-level leader. Here's this big thing, go do it. There was almost no context. There was almost no information necessary to really be successful. It was just wrestle with this really hard thing. We trust you.
Good luck.
Good luck, right? And so rather than being vulnerable enough to go to his leaders and say, hey, this is a lot and I need some help. Like, I need more information. I'm going to need other people. Rather than do that, he just dove in head first.
Yeah.
And he spent weeks stressed out. He spent weeks wrestling with this on top of doing his other jobs and really trying to make it all work, and he was not his best self. I guarantee you, as a person who probably leads 10 people, he was not the best leader to them.
No one is going to in that scenario.
In the middle of all that, yeah. But somehow that was easier than going and having a tough conversation and having the vulnerability to say, I need help.
Well, and I think that's one of those things we also get trapped in, is like almost always after you have that conversation, it's probably easier than your mind made it out to be.
That is fair. That is, like, what's funny is I know his leaders. They would have gone, okay, let's see if we can find you some help.
Right.
They would not have been like, you idiot. Why can't you get this done on your own?
Yeah.
But that's probably what his fear told him. And it was easier just to try harder.
Right. Well, and they just didn't have the context when they gave him the project enough.
Yeah.
That they knew the scope of it or whatever it may be. Or he just needed to ask more questions and he just didn't have the context. You know, there's something missing there in communication.
Yeah.
And if you have the conversation, if you have that communication, then it can clear it up.
I love that you said there's something missing there, and we try to fill that gap with, I'll just work harder, it's fine.
Right.
And that's not sustainable.
Clearly the answer is me not doing enough.
Right? Yeah, so that's what I'll do. So ultimately what we have to think about as leaders is, how do we create an environment where these difficult conversations happen on a regular basis? And I think there's kind of three key elements. The first one is we have to have a shared belief that clarity is the goal.
Right.
We often think, well, success is the goal, getting the thing done is the goal, but really clarity. If we have that as a core element as a team, we can figure the rest out, but we need clarity. So we kind of need that shared belief that that's our goal. The second element, we need a shared belief that questions are strength and not weakness. And that seems so basic. You know, we did an episode a while back, we talked about, higher character trained skill.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that seems so basic, we should all do it, but we don't.
Right.
This is another one. Questions are strength, they're not weakness. I promise you, in that person's mind, they thought going and asking questions was going to be weakness, and it was going to be treated like weakness.
Well, I keep thinking about our fake it till you make it episode that we had just a little while back. And this is what that is, right? If you just get a project and you pretend, oh, I can figure this out because they thought I could figure it out, so of course I'm going to be able to just figure it out.
Yes.
But that's faking until you make it, right? That's pretending that you have the ability to do it.
Yes. Well, in listening to our favorite Dr. Brene Brown the other day, she was talking about shame triggers. And the most common shame trigger for men is a fear of appearing weak.
Yep.
And so we have to establish for our people, especially men, but really all of our people, questions are strength.
Yeah.
Your ability to come ask us questions as leaders That is strength. That is not weakness. We are going to celebrate it. So come ask questions.
Even when you just said this, I was thinking about like, you know how in interviews, we always, as the interviewees, are like, well, I have to have questions prepared for them because then I'll look really smart. And that's somehow in that process, it's flipped, right? That we see questions as like smart
that's right.
and
we do
important.
See them as smart in that.
But I think that's one of the only instances we have that thought process, because most of the time, if we have a question, that means we don't know, and that means we're dumb, or that means we aren't, we're weak in some way.
And this goes back to, like, as leaders, we have to establish this as the culture. We're gonna establish the belief that clarity is the goal. We're gonna establish that questions are strength and not weakness. And part of how we do that is in how we react to people asking more questions. If they bring questions and we respond with, come on. Like, they're not going to bring us more questions because it will be clear that our action...
Oh, I had no more questions.
Never mind, just joking, boss. It becomes clear to them when we react that way that it's not actually strength, that we actually think it's weakness. So we have to respond with steadiness. You have more questions? Great, let's jump in. Let's find that clarity, because that's the goal that's going to allow us to find success.
Right.
And so I think that establishing that culture is going to be vital for these teams that are really wrestling with the fact that they don't have hard conversations well. They don't do the difficult things very well. Leaders, let's talk next steps. If your team struggles to have really difficult, really challenging conversations, understand there's a lot behind that psychologically. Like, there is a lot of fear. There's a lot of shame involved in it. So you've got to be able to create a framework and a culture for them to have those conversations. 3 big elements. First, a shared belief that clarity is your goal. Your job as a leader is to bring clarity. Their job is to find clarity. Together, you're going to do that really well. By the way, spoiler alert, listen to the next episode. We're going to dive into that a little bit deeper. The second piece, so a shared belief that clarity is our goal. The second piece, a shared belief that questions are strength and not weakness. Part of the way you do this is by deploying the vulnerability of asking questions yourself. When you are vulnerable in a healthy way as a leader, it opens the door for your people to be vulnerable, for the fact that nobody has to run around and pretend they have it all figured out. You establish that, you're going to get better questions. And the last piece is when people ask questions, you got to respond with steadiness. You cannot get frustrated. You cannot get irritated, because at the end of the day, you're telling them it's strength. You got to act like it's strength. You got to act like they did something good by bringing you the question. So you establish that culture, you're going to have better conversations. These things are going to stop affecting your team negatively. They're going to stop impeding your progress, which is really what they're doing right now. So establish that culture. All right, if people want to send us questions, they want to send us their thoughts on this, where do they send that to?
They send it to lab@forwardpartners.net.
Lab@forwardpartners.net. If they want to find us on socials, we are putting out content all the time on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram about leadership and how to do it well. Where do they find that?
@ForwardPartner.
@ForwardPartner. Thank you, Emily, for having this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, John Porchlight Productions, for porch lighting. Thank you, viewers, listeners, for viewing and listening. It really does mean the world to us that you would give us any of your time and attention, that you would find value in the things we do to provide leadership help and impact. Please share this with leaders you know. We want to grow that impact. We will see you next time right here in the Leader Lab for Leadership Shorts.